You are now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge. That's right, once again, you are trapped in another Get to Know the Cage segment here on NerdCage Live. And this time around, I'm going to give you my top 10 animated TV shows of all time. Now, with the vast library they have of TV shows and animated TV shows, it just stood to reason that we separate the two. First up, without further ado, I have an honorable mention for Inspector Gadget. I love how Inspector Gadget could transform into literally anything just by saying "Go Go Gadget." That alone drew me to the show, but all of the adventures that he goes on and the villain, Dr. Claw, and the voice acting was just a very well-rounded show. Some of the mechanics of the TV show, like the instructions that would explode after reading them, that was brought right out from the Mission Impossible TV show of the 60s, just brought this series into its own, and I loved that as a child. Now, into our main list, at number 10, I have the Super Friends. Now, I know we all kind of gravitate towards the Marvel TV shows of the 90s, but those shows were able to run because of the early series from DC, which is the Super Friends from the 70s. Now, I do have to be a little biased here, and I do like the later episodes better just because they added more characters. It didn't have just the base characters of Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and so on. They added a load of different characters like the Flash, Green Lantern, Cyborg, Firestorm, just to name a few. So this was a well-rounded superhero show. You may have noticed here on NerdCage Live, we tend to use the Super Friends transition whenever we can, which was amazing. And who could forget the transitions with Ted Knight?
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Next up, at number 9, I have the Rugrats. And there were a lot of things Nickelodeon that brought me into these types of shows. Fun fact, the animator also did the animations for Aeon Flux, which was another great show. But we're here to talk about Rugrats. All the characters, Tommy Pickles and his adventures, and Chucky and the twins, the annoyance that was Angelica, all made for a well-rounded show. I love the stories with Grandpa, and shout out to Matt Farden, who can do the voice flawlessly. And this show went on to make feature films as well, which I also enjoyed. I had to include it on this list. Next up, at number 8, every morning before school, I would watch a certain TV show involving 5 rings that would conjure up a superhero, and that superhero was Captain Planet. Each Planeteer has their own specific power, whether it be earth, wind, fire, water, or heart, which is good enough in its own right. But when you combine them, you get Captain Planet, and it taught you something, which TV shows don't really do anymore. And to watch that before school every day was just a reason for me to wake up early. At number 7, I have The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, I had to get a gaming-related TV show on here, and none better than Sonic the Hedgehog from the 90s, with Jaleel White as the voice of Sonic, which I think was special around that time because he was also doing Family Matters and everything. So it just kind of linked in for me. Seeing Scratch and Grounder and Dr. Robotnik, and just being able to watch an animated TV show based on my beloved game, Sonic, was just a great time to be had by all. Moving on, at number 6, I have the show from 1987, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I have to say that intro alone with the theme music was amazing. And to see all the turtles in their glory and being fleshed out in this animated show, going against the beloved enemies that we've come to know and love, was just an amazing experience, and it definitely deserves to be on this list. At number 5, I'm going to give you guys a deep cut with Centurions. Now, this was a really old TV show from like the 70s and 80s. It was basically a show that was created to sell action figures and toys, and fleshed out on screen as an animated show was a great thing to behold. And I just think that any show that showcases like military background, and it's on either sea, land, or air, and they get these power-ups that attach to them and all different types of weaponry that they can use based on their expertise, was just great in my opinion, and it was awesome to see the onslaught on screen. At number 4, we're going to move into comedy now with Family Guy. anybody has seen this show. Seth MacFarlane is a genius with all the voices that he can do, and should I say, probably rivals most of the voice actors that are on The Simpsons. Family Guy just has something special about it, with all its callbacks and all its weird political humor, and personally, my favorite characters. How can you not like Peter and Stewie? Not to take away from the others, but those two resonate in my mind when I think of Family Guy. At number 3, a little more risque, would have to be South Park. And this show has stood the test of time, and it just shows the genius of Trey Parker and Matt Stone to still be doing this years and years later and still be on top when it comes to animated TV shows. Now, like I said, it's not really made for the kids, but us that grew up with it, it holds a special place in my heart, and it had to be towards the top of this list. Keeping with the theme of risque TV shows, even longer than South Park, at number 2, I'm putting Beavis and Butthead. We grew up with this all the way through the 90s and all the way till today. Something about the early series of Beavis and Butthead left a mark on me, and especially when you're looking at the music video commentary that they had. It made the career for a lot of artists just based on showcasing those music videos, and it pretty much made MTV what it was meant to be and kept it holding on for as long as it did. Rest in peace to MTV, by the way. But this show was a must-watch with my friends. We had hours of laughter, and it had to make this list. So we're all here to see what my number 1 is. And at number 1, I have X-Men 97. Now, yes, X-Men was prominent when I was younger, but I didn't really have a chance to watch it all that much. I kind of watched it sporadically here and there, but when X-Men 97 came out, I made it a point to binge that entire first season and keep watching all the way up to present, and they never let me down. I would argue that X-Men 97 capitalizes on what the original X-Men in the 90s was, and it didn't disappoint. Everything about it is just top tier to me. All of the mutants were great. Even the lesser known mutants that we've come to almost meme traditionally, like Jubilee and everything, was still done in a pretty well manner in this TV series, and I really can't say a bad thing about it. I hope it keeps going because I can't wait to see what they do next. So that's my top 10 animated shows of all time. Let us know yours in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more Get to Know the Cage segments.